This meeting is being recorded.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. This is the Social Emotional Learning seminar presented by Naomi Adams. Like I said before, my name is Heather Holloman. I'm the co-founder and a current board member of Mental Health Awareness of Michiana. We are a local nonprofit, and our mission is to eliminate stigma around mental illness, to promote mental health care in our community. And we are really excited to have Naomi here with us today. Naomi is a licensed clinical social worker, and she's also a licensed addictions counselor. She has extensive experience working with children, adolescents, and adults, and she's also worked with disadvantaged individuals and people from underserved populations. She's the owner of NDA Consulting and Counseling Services, and she specializes in depression, anxiety, and trauma. Thank you for being with us, Naomi. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera now, and I'm going to start screen sharing. And if people have questions during Naomi's presentation, you can type them in the chat box, and she's going to pause periodically so that I can ask her those questions, okay? All right.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Okay.
And if you could put it in the slideshow, the slide view, the slideshow.
How do I do that? Is that over? Here
so animations. Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry about our technical difficulties, but I'm excited to be here and to talk a little bit with you in regards to social and emotional learning. Just to give you a little bit about my background, I do work in a school district here in South Bend, so we have implemented a lot of social and emotional curriculums to help our students be able to communicate and express their emotions appropriately. Over the last few years, social and emotional learning has really been in high demand, especially in the last 2 years with COVID, because when our students returned back to school on this year, they actually were 2 years behind, not only academically, but emotionally as well. So 60% of our students are students who have been affected by trauma, parents, having substance abuse issues and mental health issues. So it's really, really crucial and necessary for us to put a curriculum in place to help our students be able to have some strong interpersonal skills and be able to communicate effectively with their peers. Next slide, please. Okay, so the objectives today is we're going to discuss what is SEL, which is social and emotional learning, why SEL is essential, especially during this time where there's a lot going on in our country with mental health being an all-time high. We have a lot of disgruntled people. So it's a lot going on with equity and inclusion and just, racial injustice. So we're also going to talk about how to implement SEL in schools, in your home, and in our communities. And we're also going to discuss the benefits of using SEL. Next slide. Okay, first of all, I'm going to define what social and emotional learning is. It is a way to help students, and not only students, but adults of all ages, to better comprehend and to get in touch with how they feel in regards to their emotions, and be able to demonstrate empathy for other people. And sometimes we find that, not only students, but even adults have a hard time showing empathy to other people. Also, with these learned behaviors, then we use them to help students make positive responsible decisions, and to create a good framework to be able to achieve their goals, and to, most of all, build those positive relationships with their teachers and also with their peers as well. So, who uses SEL and why do they use it? Definitely the schools. As I stated before, SEL is very high in demand because we're finding that students do not know how to appropriately express their feelings and their emotions. We have a very high percentage of students in our school district that struggle with anger. It could be due to trauma, mental health issues. So they really struggle with that, and impulsivity. So they do things, they react, and then later regret that they did what the action was because of the impulsivity and not being able to know how to have that self-control and knowing how to control their emotions. So the schools all over the country are really getting on board with social and emotional learning. Also, the parents can be the best advocate with helping their children learn how to express themselves, to know what emotion that they're feeling, at the present time. Also, communities are using it as well. After school programs, we use it during that time, and also just communities also use it to help adults be able to express themselves. Next slide. So as it relates to our school corporation, again, teachers, social workers, counselors, school staff can implement the SEL curriculum in the classrooms from kindergarten through high school. And it is my belief, I believe that all staff that's working with children should know how to implement the basic uh, process of knowing how to implement social and emotional learning. It is just that crucial, in our schools. Um, SEL skills can be taught through direct instruction, or it can be incorporated into the academic curriculum. Um, SEL also helps students build positive relationships with teachers and their classmates. A lot of times, students may not have positive relationships in their environments, in their homes. So they come to school and they do not know how to uh, interact with their peers in a positive way because they have not had that role modeling in their homes or in their other environments that they are at currently. So it is an issue, not just in our district, but it's across the board. We, again, in COVID, as you all know, did not help the situation at all because it put a lot of our students behind like 2 years. Not only, if, say, for instance, if a student was supposed to be in the 8th grade, they really have that 6th grade mentality as far as their emotions. So they're like 2 years behind, 2 years behind. And if they were already struggling, they're even further behind. So, COVID definitely put our school districts in a crisis. It also helps create a supportive environment that welcomes growth. And that's what we want to see, along with academic achievement and emotional safety. Again, SEL is really crucial because if you have students that are struggling with their emotions, not knowing how to express their feelings, uh, don't know how to solve problems, it's hard for them to learn academically if they don't know how to appropriately communicate their feelings. So our school district, when I work with the students and the teachers as well, you'll see feelings charts all over the classroom. So we have, like, when they come in first thing in the morning, we have what we call advisory. So it's not really a academic class. It is a check-in time for about 40 minutes for the students to just check in. Especially, it's really good on a Monday because you don't know what happened over the weekend. It could have been a school, it could have been a shooting or something happened in the home, could have been a death. So we do a check-in and I ask the students, so how are you feeling today? You know, go to the feeling chart. And some really don't have to do that because some are beginning to be able to say, you know, I'm really angry, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm irritable. So they're able to do that. And then, you know, we continue the conversation on getting them on the right track with their emotions. We use a lot of self-regulation activities because what we find is that the students don't know how to control themselves when they get angry. And that's a huge issue. When they get angry, they don't know how to say, I'm really angry right now, so I need to go talk to Mrs. Adams, or I need to talk to my teacher. You know, they don't know how to properly express that. So sometimes they result to, you know, physical assaults and things like that because they don't know how to calm themselves down. And zones regulation is a really good one that you can use on the primary level and also on the middle school level because, again, sometimes we find that the students, you know, age-wise is still behind emotionally. Mindfulness is really good too because it helps the students really get in touch with their environment and their self-awareness. So we use mindfulness activities in our districts as well. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about the zones. I really like the zones of regulation, especially with the primary, but I use it in middle school too, because, you know, we have sixth graders and even the seventh and eighth graders, they like it too. So when you're on blue, you're sad, you know, you're tired, you're bored, you know, you're moving slow, you may not feel well. So green is, you know, you're happy, you know, you're in a calm state, everything is going well, you're good to go, you're focused and you're ready to learn. And that's the goal. That's what where we want our students to be. So yellow is like, you know, they're hyper alert, you know, they're silly, they're wiggly, they're anxious, they're excited, you know, they can be irritable. So we want to try to get them to the green mode. And if they're on yellow, you know, we'll kind of ask, you know, well, what's frustrating you? What are you worried about? And we kind of go through that and kind of have them talk it out so they can move over to green where we can get them focused and ready to go into the classroom. Red, we definitely don't want to see any of our students there, but unfortunately we do, and we do a lot. And that's where SEL really comes in because we try to um, get them uh, focused and in the right direction before they get on red. So we're trying to teach the students before they get to red, what were your triggers? What is triggering you so they can be able to identify, you know, I feel like if this student does not stop talking to me, then I'm going to yell, I'm going to hit. So that would make them self-aware of what they may be ready to do if they're able to express it. So sometimes, you know, the students, unfortunately, they don't identify how they're feeling and they can go to red immediately at the drop of a hat. So, and that's where, you know, we have to try to, you know, help them calm down. Normally, sometimes when students get on red, they're so angry, you can't talk to them, you can't do anything because they're so angry. I'll just have them come in my office, sit down, and just be able to just sit and think. And maybe I'll give them 10 minutes and I'm working at my desk and I'll give them 10 minutes and then I say, okay, so what happened? Okay, you know, that was a very inappropriate response. What could you have done? So we're talking it through. And then they're able to realize what their triggers was, what they should have done to prevent that situation from happening. So are there any questions right now before we move on?
Looks like there's
Okay.
no questions in the chat box.
Okay, thank you. So I also use the car analogy, just like an engine on a car, when the engine is running really, really fast. And that's the way some of our students are on an everyday basis. And we try to get them to the calm, alert, and focus area where they're ready to go into the classroom and they're ready to learn. Some cars are really slow, so we try to get them out of the drowsy, hypo alert stage. Okay, wake up, get focused. What can I do to help you, get into that calm state? So I do that as well. And then also I begin to understand, it helps the students begin to understand what their triggers are, what arouses them, what's going to make them angry. So they can be able to express, what are your triggers? What makes you angry? And a lot of the students will just say, I don't know, I was just angry. Well, what was happening at the time? What happened this morning when you came to school? What happened last night? So they begin to be able to express that, and then they can process it, and then we can get them to that calm alert state. So basically, those are some of the activities that we use to get the students where they need to be as far as, going into the classroom and being ready to learn. Parents, they can also use SEL. Parents are very key. They are their child's first teacher. So they need to be key players in, helping their children build those good social and emotional skills. Our parents, as you know, they're the first role models, that, their children will see. So they should be implementing those skills and teaching their children, about their behaviors and their attitudes, and help them to be able to express how they feel. They can help reinforce the skills that children learn at school. And, we also work hand in hand with the teachers, with the parents, to let them know what we're working with the students on and have them reinforce it in the home. So the parents, they can act as advocates, to promote and to make sure that, whatever school district that their child is in, that they have that curriculum integrated into, their academics where they're learning that. So what do you do when parents lack social and emotional skills? Because we all know that, due to maybe trauma issues that, children might have had, and, it was never addressed. There was never no counseling, or, they didn't have the support where they were able to process those, trauma issues or what happened to them. Then they grew up to be, angry adults, and, can't identify what their triggers are. So that's where we come in to provide, those resources to parents, when they ask for, maybe counseling, good parenting skills. We can, plug them into a program to be able to help the parents so that they can help their children. So sometimes, the parents really, really need that. And again, communities, after school program, provide SEL as well. So they offer situations for children to be able to continue to practice and be able to reinforce those skills. Also, too, we also use a lot of restorative practices, because we have a lot of students, that does not know how to problem solve. and to talk it out. So we do use those restorative practices in conjunction with SEL. And, when used effectively, it really, really does work. So SEL, is for all students, regardless of their race, their gender, their socioeconomic status, is for all students. So it works hand in hand with, equity and inclusion. So um, that's what I like about it. Again, I want to talk a little bit about, trauma. We find too, like when our students come into our district, we have a very high percentage of students who, have been affected, unfortunately, by trauma, complex trauma, generational trauma. And again, they have difficulty identifying it, expressing how they feel, not knowing how to manage their emotions. So their communication is very limited because they just don't know how to express how they feel. And I'll give you an example of that. There's a student that I meet with on a regular basis, not going to use his name. I'll just say Charlie. Hi, Charlie. How was your weekend? Good. Oh, okay. So tell me, what does good mean to you? What does good mean? Because you always say good. How are you doing? Good. So tell me, what does good mean? That mean I had fun this weekend. Well, what did you do to have fun? So you try to get them to just, instead of having those closed-ended words, we try to get them to really elaborate and open up and be able to express how they feel. And, again, trauma, children, they don't know how, they often internalize and externalize stress, reactions. And that's just a result, and into them, going into depression, anxiety, and anger. And again, we have a very high percentage of students here who are, have experienced trauma, and a lot of mental health issues as well. And again, COVID didn't help, we still have students and families, parents struggling with depression, anxiety, and just anger because of everything that has happened in our country in the past 2 years. So I see there's a question in the chat.
Looks like that one's an old question.
Okay. All right. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits of social and emotional learning? From an academic standpoint, from what we see in our school district, that students who participated in SEL programs saw like a 11% percentile increase in overall grades and better attendance. That's what we want to see. That's the goal. Then on a more individual level, the skills that they learned with SEL have been shown to really help them be able to cope with stress, with anxiety, with their depression. It also helps them, again, to learn how to problem solve. How do you solve the situation instead of physical violence, or, using profanity, or yelling or screaming, or walking out of the classroom, So it's important for us, not only the student to know what their triggers are too, because we really, really try to be proactive. So another benefit, again, we also see a decrease in mental health referrals when social and emotional activities are implemented, effectively. We do see a decrease in those referrals. Also, we find that the student-teacher relationship is a lot better. There's an increase in a lot of bonding between the teachers and the students as well. Also, we see a decrease in office referrals where students are not going to in-school suspension, they're not being sent home, they're not being suspended, and they're not being put up for expulsion. So it really does work. So I'm definitely an advocate for social and emotional learning. So I want to talk about CASELL. CASELL is the acronym for Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. This curriculum was implemented 26 years ago, which I didn't even realize because just over the past, I would say, 7 years, the buzzword has been SEL, Social and Emotional Learning. The past 2 years, it's really been in high demand, again, because of COVID and students not being able to interact with their peers and not knowing how to interact with their peers. Keeping in mind that we were quarantined for almost a year on and off. And when we got the students back in the classroom, I mean, it was really difficult for them to get along with other students, to get used to structure, to get used to being able to be in a classroom and to sit, for 6 hours, on and off. That was really difficult. It's like we had to start all over again, like they had never been to school, before. So it really put schools all over the country in a crisis with social and emotional issues, and also the struggles that our families are having with mental health issues, which is really huge in our country right now and in our schools. So I want to talk about the core competence areas and where they are promoted in CASELL. Next slide, please. So here are the 5 core competency areas that we want all of our students to be competent in, to be able to master. One is self-awareness, to be aware of what's going on with them at the present moment, to have that insight of what their triggers are, and just that self-awareness of, who they are. Also, self-management. Again, it goes back to being able to regulate, to be able to self-regulate, and to be able to calm themselves down on their own without me having to pull a student and go over some things to help them be able to process what just happened. And that's the goal. If we can get them to calm themselves down and realize, if I do this, this is going to happen. Instead of having a negative response, their response should be positive. So social awareness is another one, to be aware and be able to interact with their peers in a positive way. Relationship skills is really huge because, hey, this is middle school, right? It's a lot of drama. It's a lot of, I don't like her, and girls against, this clique against these girls and vice versa. So we see a lot of that. And as you know, middle school, that, identity crisis, not really knowing who they are, what am I here for, who am I, just trying to fit in with, the environment and trying to be liked by their peers. And sometimes they really struggle with being accepted, by their peers, and they really struggle with, their self-esteem. So that's just, the day in the life of middle school that children experience. So also responsible decision making is the 5th one. And what we try to get our students to do is own it. Take ownership for your behavior. Don't try to put the blame on the teacher, Don't try to put the blame on your peer. Don't try to blame the parent. Don't try to blame your environment. You are responsible for the decisions that you make. And if it was not a good decision, then what can we do to make sure you make better decisions in school? So we really try to get them to own up to what they have done, their behavior, and just, be responsible and take that responsibility. So let's talk about self-awareness. Again, that's the ability for them to understand what's going on with their own emotions. What are they struggling with? Thoughts, negative thoughts, good thoughts, and what they value and how they influence their behavior across the board. So again, identifying what's going on with them, their own emotions, because if they're not able to identify their own emotions, then they're going to continue to struggle with poor social skills and poor choices. So we try to get them, mindfulness is another one that I like to use too. Sometimes we get agencies to come in from the community to do that mindfulness. And that's been proven to be very effective too in classrooms. Also just experiencing that self-advocacy where they can, be self-determined as well, and having that growth mindset. So those are some of the things that comes with self-awareness and being able to help them link their feelings, their values, their thoughts, and so that all can come together for them. Next slide. Self-management is another one. And again, that's their ability to be able to manage their own emotions, to be aware of different situations, and to help them be able to set goals and to be able to achieve those goals, and to learn what what they are inspired to do, their aspirations, what do they want to do. It's really good for helping them to use stress management strategies, self-discipline, that self-motivation, to help them to be more assertive as well. And, by taking that initiative to, again, take ownership for the issue, the problem, for, what you have done, and also to help them to demonstrate, personal and collective, agency, to be able to have that self-discipline and that self-motivation. And sometimes, that's difficult for them, but we help, them to try to work through it so they can understand the importance of social awareness. Next slide, please. Next slide.
I think I already advanced one. I'm sorry. You don't think you've talked about this one yet, have you? Did I go
Yes,
back?
I did. That's okay.
Oops. All right. I think this is where you're at, right?
Yeah. Relationship skills. That's really, really huge because, again, this is middle school, 1 week they're friends, then the next week they're not. They had a boyfriend for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later they broke up. So they're just all over the place with their emotions and not getting along, just conflicts is a constant issue, especially, on the middle school level. It's normal, so we just have to help them channel, those emotions and those behaviors. So that's the ability for them to establish and maintain healthy and supportive relationships. with their peers, also with their teachers as well. So they are able, again, to be able to know how to communicate effectively and to maintain positive relationships. And sometimes that's been, an issue because a lot of times, like in their environments, the relationships just have not been a positive experience. Some of them continue to have conflicts with, their parents, conflicts with family members. So, they come in with these issues. So not only are, teachers just can't teach anymore. Sometimes they have to be the nurse. Sometimes they have to be the mom. Sometimes they have to be the dad. They wear many, many hats. Sometimes they have to be the social worker. So teaching is not the way it used to be as a traditional teacher. So because we having students that are coming into our classroom environments that are very needy and just a lot of issues that are going on with them. So also too, we help students to, that are not as prone to stand up, and to speak to other students and to defend themselves by communicating, you hurt me, I didn't like it, you disrespected me. So those relationship skills, we teach them to stand up for their rights and what they believe in. Also cultural competency. We're an urban school. We have students from a very diverse background. And as you know, everyone is different. Their identity, sexual identity may be different. So they have to know how to have that self respect for themselves and for others because they're different. They may be different from them, and that may be a struggle for them because it may be something that they may not necessarily believe in, but again, they have to respect because everyone is different and they have to learn how to respect those differences. So all of that encompasses good relationship skills. So again, responsible decisions, own it, take responsibility. It happened. I made a mistake. I regret it happened. If I could do the situation differently, this is what I would do. And that's what I work with my students on. Okay, if you could go back 15 minutes ago, would you have fought him? Or would you have pushed him? Or would you have cursed him out? You know, so those are some of the things that I work with the students on. Own it. Take responsibility for your actions and what caused the situation. And sometimes students have difficulties doing that, and parents do too, and adults in general sometimes always want to place the blame on other people, but it's important, for students to learn that they have to have good, responsible decision making to make them grounded and to be able to be effectively, as they integrate into the world. So that's really, really important. I'll stop again to see if there are any questions.
Not at this time.
All right. So what are employers saying about SEL? 65% of executives that were surveyed say that they would rather colleges build up students' life skills because when they come into the workforce, they find that they actually lack good, strong interpersonal skills. They do not know how to get along effectively with others and being able to be team players, being able to relate and to respect diversity. So 7 top characteristics of success at a company are all social and emotional learning related skills. If you can't get along with people, you're not going to be able to function in a work environment, in a school environment. So they would rather colleges also integrate those life skills into colleges so that when the students go into the workforce, they're really prepared and they know how to have those strong interpersonal skills and know how to communicate, know how to listen, and how to have insight into others and to demonstrate that empathy for other people. So that's what employers are saying. Also, administrators, parents, teachers, they all value social and emotional skill. It's something that we all have to learn um, how to be able to communicate effectively and how to express ourselves in an appropriate way. 92% of executives say skills like problem solving, communication skills clearly are equally or more important than technical skills. And that, I definitely agree with that. The top 10 skills identified by the World Economic Forum all involve social and emotional competence. You got to know how to problem solve. You got to know how to make good judgment, a good sound decision making skills, how to have that cognitive flexibility, you know, coordinating with other people, people management. You gotta, have those people skills. And research shows that social and emotional skills and attitudes also contribute to other skills such as critical thinking. And if you don't have those things, then you're going to struggle with your interactions with other people. Uh, and they want you to be able to welcome diversity as well, to be able to accept people for who they are or who they choose to be, which is really, really crucial. And that's why we have so much, DI training, diversity and inclusion, equity and inclusion is really, really high in demand, as well as social and emotional learning. And again, the past 2 to 3 years um, is crucial because SEL is crucial for us to really, really uh, tap into and to make sure that, our children, our grandchildren, great grandchildren know how to communicate, know how, most of all, to express their emotions, because when they internalize it, that's when it can go into some mental health issues, and we don't want to see that. Again, this is an ever-changing world, and over the past 2 3 years our country has really, really been through a lot. We've experienced um, COVID-19, which was horrific, to experience. Something that we thought we would never face in our country. Mental health issues is at an all-time high as well. As we've seen the racial injustice, uh, racial trauma, the George Floyd, uh, that we experience with that, police brutality that we see, on a constant basis, the Black Lives Matter, and now the war in Ukraine. It's just, very trauma provoking with some of the things that our world has seen in the past 2 to 3 years, and is currently, continuing to see on an everyday basis. So social and emotional learning is really crucial, because with all of these things that I just mentioned, it brings anger, frustration to people. And, a lot of people just don't know how to process everything that has happened over the past 3 years. So not only is social and emotional crucial for children, it's also crucial for us, for adults, so that we can help children and others to be able to cope with this ever changing world that we're currently in. So um, we're just, again, in reference to our schools across the country, we are definitely in crisis, academically and social and emotionally. So it's really, really crucial that we continue to implement these strategies as far as social and emotional learning in all of our environments, in our homes, in our schools, and in our communities. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up again if you have any questions for me. No questions?
It doesn't look like we had any questions. One that did come up is whether you would be able to share some of the specific slides or handouts that you were using today.
I sure can.
So
Can I send you, Heather, and can you get them to them?
Yes, that's perfect, because I was going to remind everybody that we'll send out your certificates of participation within the next few days, and we'll go ahead and include Naomi's slides with that when we send it out. And I also wanted to remind everybody that we're going to be sending out a survey at the end of today's session so that you can fill that out. And anyone who completes the evaluation by the end of today gets entered for drawing for a $10 gift card. So I wanted to say thank you so much to Naomi Adams. That was a fantastic presentation. We appreciate you. It looks like lots of people are saying thank you for the information. And thanks for watching out for the kiddos in our area.
Thank you very much for attending.
All right, well, if nobody has any further questions, we'll go ahead and end for today. And thank you, everybody.
All right. Have a good one.